I'm standing in a canal next to this Socorro neighborhood, and although this looks like solid mud, it's actually plant matter, trash, and dirt, all floating on water that reaches almost up to my knees. Neighbors say just yesterday this canal was completely full from the rain, and all the water was being pushed out of here and into their homes. Borderland business leaders say renegotiating NAFTA with local input could open up the 23-year-old trade agreement to be updated and even gotten ready for future innovation. As these emergency goods are wrapped up and loaded onto trucks, they'll be shipped off into central Mexico with even more deliveries following as donations are dropped off. After Hurricane Maria destroyed roads and washed away bridges in Puerto Rico, many patients had no way to get the medical care they needed. So they turned to the military, helicopters being the only way to escape the center of the island. In the village of Las Marias, little Joseph Martinez Madero, a nonverbal child with autism, needed to be carried out to a hospital. His mother, Lourdes Madero Reyes, did everything she could to get her child transported. He was born hypoxic, had 2 heart attacks and 2 strokes, the latest 4 months before Hurricane Maria. But Joseph's village with no electricity or running water was no place to keep him. There was no access to therapists or doctors to treat him or to relieve his head dangerously full of blood.
Que hay que darle terapia, que hay que hacerle la craneostomía y pan de cosas. Cuidado con la cabeza.
His mom making sure he was handled gently as Joseph was moved from the ambulance to the helicopter. The noise and people were too much for him. Joseph started crying as his mother tried to soothe him.
No va a pasar nada, papi.
Joseph quickly calmed down inside the helicopter, his mom sharing medical documents with the crew, making sure he would get the care he needed. Her eyes tearing up. She was a mother desperate to get her son to safety. 23 days of waiting since the hurricane passed, her wish finally being granted as the helicopter landed in the capital, an ambulance ready to carry Joseph off to the pediatric hospital. His mother's stress finally relieved.
Now being here in San Juan, they hope to take little Joseph over to Virginia in the United States in order to have a be with his family and be safe and getting all the therapy he needs. Reporting from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Julio-Cesar Chavez, ABC7.
With flood waters still high in East Texas, medical teams are being dispatched to care for stranded animals, bringing challenges not found when rescuing people.
What we're going to do, we're going to have to assess what we got going on first, and we may have to tranquilize them lightly and just step them easily into the water, and we're going to swim them out of here.
The horses had just been rescued this morning after days of standing in their flooded barns.
When we got in there, their noses, everything was in the water, and they were just gurgling. Like, they were so exhausted because they need to hang their head to go to sleep, and they hadn't slept in days, and so they were just literally in the water. So we were picking their heads up, holding them up out of the water, and then we just got them on the boat because I was like, we got to go. You can see right now that the waters here on Farm to Market Road 1942 reach almost up to my hips. We're told that last night these horses had to swim in waters almost a foot higher, reaching up to their noses. The original plan to get these animals out was to bring in a trailer pulled by a heavy truck or a tractor, get the horses onto the road and into the trailer to pull them completely out of the flooded areas. But after careful review, the doctors said the animals were in no condition to do such thing.
They've exhausted all their energy, and they're very weak and wounded and battered, and lots of fire ants, and they're in critical condition.
Although treated, the fight to rescue these farm animals is far from over.
Once they recover, it might take them a while to recover, but once they recover, they should be able to go on and, you know, have normal lives. With this group of horses now treated, the doctor and his team go off to find the next group of animals stranded by the floodwaters. Reporting from Baytown, Texas, Julio-Cesar Chavez, ABC7. At the Red Cross Mega Shelter in Houston, the Brown Convention Center, volunteers from the U.S. and Mexico are working together to relieve those victims and evacuees hit by Hurricane Harvey, arriving just a week after Harvey hit.
La Cruz Roja Canadiense, Cruz Roja Americana, y la Cruz Roja Mexicana.
The Canadian, American, and Mexican Red Crosses always help each other out and are trained to hit the ground running in any country they're needed.
They're impressed. People here, all the clients that are inside of the mega shelter, They are so impressed that we came from Mexico and we are here working with them.
Running the kitchens, distributing food, and managing donations, the Mexican volunteers said they're proud to be the first group representing their country in this time of need.
We always collaborate between all the national societies, so it's very important to stay here, to be here.
Wearing the same iconic uniform of a red cross on a white field, members of both the Mexican and American teams say that working together is the best way to bring these evacuees the care they need. As Mexican crews worked in Houston, deadly disasters hit Mexico itself. Tropical Storm Lydia, Hurricane Katia, and an 8.1 earthquake. Those the Mexican Red Crosses helped were quick to respond. Governor Abbott releasing a statement saying in part, quote, just as Mexico stood with Texas in our time of need, Texas will stand with Mexico and offer whatever aid and assistance we can to help them recover after this disaster. The American Red Cross telling ABC7, Mexican authorities have said they have all the resources necessary, but the Americans are ready to jump in and help the instant they're asked. U.S. residents in blue, Mexico residents in white. 400 families had just 3 minutes to hug, kiss, and see each other on the U.S.-Mexico border after years of separation. Tears streamed down everyone's faces as they reconnected on the Rio Grande riverbed. One daughter noticing her father's gray hairs for the first time. The third Hugs Not Walls reunion, put together by the Border Network for Human Rights, was the first held under President Trump. One Mexican mother who hadn't seen her children in 14 years explained she couldn't visit the U.S. after being repeatedly denied a visa. And those on the American side couldn't go back after crossing undocumented, some looking for a better life, others to save it. He says crime in Mexico forced him to flee the country. Well, it was a very special occasion for everyone. For a few, it was even more memorable. It was this young man's birthday, something he hadn't been able to celebrate with his family in 7 years, calling it a miracle from God. As families hug each other for the first time in years, some are worried that the new administration won't let them see each other again. But organizers say they're pushing forward for another reunion with no reservations. Afraid this will be the last time she'll see the second half of her family.
We will have a fourth one. We don't know when, but I think we will aim to have another event because we had so many families that were left behind that there were just too many that we couldn't register.
Their message clear. They're looking for hugs, not walls. Reporting from the U.S.-Mexico border, Julio-Cesar Chavez, ABC7. Out in the Juarez Colonia of kilometer 27, houses don't have running water. The streets don't have water lines, making everyone rely on home tanks filled by the water utility. As temps go up and the tanks run dry from use, residents are forced to buy more water at the store. A corner store clerk explained she gets stocked with water Monday and Friday, and by the second day, it's sold out. So several organizations from around the borderland, like Boundless Across Borders and Las Amazonas, are running a water drive, collecting enough to take to the colonias.
So we've only been going 2 days and we have 110 gallons of water and about 30 cases total of water bottles.
Even with help of organizations like these, neighbors say they still have to budget their water and live off of tanks like this one until the water truck comes around again to resupply.
Maria
Jesus Lopez has lived in the area for 47 years. She's learned to reuse water. The water she washes with gets used for plants and the restroom. If they run out, the tanks have to be filled privately at 15 pesos a tank. To fill 10, it would be 150 pesos, less than $10, and not something these neighbors can afford. Reporting from Ciudad Juárez, Julio-Cesar Chavez, ABC7.
Yo lo conocí porque iba a trabajar.
94-year-old Leopoldo Avila was a bracero laborer, a guest worker from Mexico in the U.S. back in the 50s. 75 years after the bracero program started in 1942, Avila walked us through the Rio Vista Reception Center in Socorro. It was his first time back at the center in more than 50 years. The braceros would get temporary permits in Mexico and cross to work in the U.S., being sprayed with pesticide at the border before being bussed here.
Ese era donde llegaba uno. para quitarse el polvo.
Workers would get off the bus and go straight into the showers, washing the pesticide off and going in for medical checks. Technicians would bark orders, moving everyone along as they took x-rays.
Detenga la respiración, paz, otro, y vámonos.
Once he was bathed, checked, and fed, Leopoldo would sleep here in these dormitories with hundreds of other braceros, some of them even on the floor, but all of them waiting and hoping to find work somewhere in the U.S.
Aquí venían los patrones de muchas partes.
He explained bosses would come from all over the U.S. to hire the braceros. Avila himself would go on to work in the fields of Montana, Michigan, and Arkansas. The permit would last for 18 months, and then it had to be renewed.
Nomás te llevaban a Zaragoza, por el puente, pasabas el río, y luego dabas vuelta, pisabas el lado mexicano, y luego ya pasabas por el otro lado, para acá.
The workers would simply go down to the border, walk across, step on Mexican soil, and go right back to the U.S. to get a new contract. Picking beets, cotton, and even hatch chili was all worth it, he said, to give his family a better future. Julio-Cesar Chavez, ABC 7.